everyone to share. We will be recording the session so that we can share it with the larger community, folks not able to attend today or previous sessions. And when we record, that also includes the chat. So anything you chat is part of the public record so that everyone knows. Please do feel free to share your thoughts in the chat when it's time to do that, and we'll let you know when those times arise. And then we will also have breakout session time. So you will go into smaller breakout rooms where you're able to share in a smaller group verbally. Feel free to keep your cameras on, keep your camera off, whatever you are comfortable with. So at this time, welcome, welcome. Please do take the time to put in the chat your name, your role, if you are a student, parent, community member, who you represent, and the schools that you're representing and advocating for this evening. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, Ruby. Welcome, Catherine.
I think we're ready to begin. Can we go to our next slide, please? So I'd like to take this opportunity to once again say welcome. And I'm sure all of you know me by now. My name is Dr. Hurst, Chris Hurst. I'm the superintendent. I've been here almost a year. It's been exciting to be part of the community and part of this work. Before we get into this evening and starting the conversation about strategic planning, I wanted to take the opportunity to recognize several people that I know that are in the audience. If there's any board members that's attending virtually, we want to recognize you. Thank you for being here. We also, over the past 3 sessions that we've had in person, we've had a number of staff members from principals to directors. We've had executive directors that's been organizing and helping to lead these sessions. Our chief academic officer has been at every session as well. And executive team members have been in the sessions. And I especially want to honor them this evening. They've been working extremely hard over the start of the year when I first arrived. And we were transitioning back to 100% in person, and they have not stopped. We've had something going on a weekly basis and sometimes on a daily basis. The team is tired, but they understand the importance of engaging in this work. So I wanted to take the opportunity just to say thank you to the entire team. We also have parents here. We have community members. We have business partners, but especially our students. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be here this evening. This is important work. I've not wavered since I've been here. And just to recap with all of you, when I first arrived, I listened to all of you, and I've listened to the concerns, the issues. We also had an organization to come on board that was approved by our board of trustees, and that was Illuminate Ed Collective, and they did an equity audit. And I shared all along that we would learn more about our issues, our gaps in multiple areas. So that organization brought in a lot of expertise, and we've looked at every department. We've looked at the school level, even master scheduling processes. We looked at other systems and processes, and there was a lot of information that was revealed from that equity audit. But if you remember, I also shared right after the equity audit, then we would go into the strategic planning. So what you're going to hear me talk about again and again is the difference between current reality and ideal state. So part of what I did when I came on board and that listening tour, I was trying to determine what our current reality is and where we are currently. And then once we brought on Illuminate Ed Collective, they as well was trying to determine what is the current reality? Where are we with all of our systems, all of our departments? The conversation that we're having this evening and we'll be having over the next few months is about our ideal state and where we desire to go as an organization. And that's why it's really important. And I thank you for coming this evening. We'll be talking about some very significant things about what we want our students to know and be able to do when they graduate. We'll be looking at a compelling vision statement that we're going to create together. And also we'll be discussing a mission statement, our core purpose. There's some other things throughout this process that we're going to engage in, but over the next few sessions, those are the primary things. But you've also heard me talk about an equity statement. That has to happen. Our core values, how we treat people, how we interact with one another as well. That's going to happen throughout this process. We also talked about an anti-racist statement. And so all of those things are going to happen throughout this process. So thank you for being here. It is an important conversation. And I just want to honor all of you for being here, but especially our students, because ultimately we're doing this for them. This is all about our students. Next slide, please. So I wanted to let you know.
Querías dejarles saber que tengo una responsabilidad y estuve diciendo
here, the superintendent is hired to implement the direction and the goals of the Board of Trustees. And that's what I'm doing. And again, I've been very consistent that we really need to look at our system. I've shared that we are a system that lacks resources. We're a system that lacks staffing. And we cannot let that stop us from planning and developing a long-range plan for our students. We have to have this conversation. You have a new superintendent and a fairly new board. So this is the conversation that has to happen, looking at long-range planning. Next slide, please. What's really important for me as well, and several board members have shared this with me, this can't be a process where the superintendent is sitting in the office with the executive cabinet members and we're talking about what we want our students to know and to be able to do. This has to be an organic process. We have to include everyone in the process. And that's what the trustees, board members have been sharing with me. Dr. Hurst, we need to have our parents, our community, our university officials, staff, but especially our students involved in this process. In every session, it was very clear, especially from our students, that they even want more students involved in the process. And what you're going to hear tonight, you're going to hear from our students. We have 5 students that's going to be speaking to us and be sharing with you their experience, K-12 experience in the system, and some things that we need to think about as we start this visioning process. And we'll be introducing them as well. But I do have a responsibility to make sure that this is from the ground up and not from the top down. So that's why we are asking parents, all stakeholders, to be involved in this process. And I'm going to encourage you right now as well. You're here. I see there's 54 participants. We need more. We need more people involved. I authentically want as many people that want to be involved in this conversation to be involved in the conversation. So again, thank you for being here. Next slide. So let me share with you what's been happening behind the scenes. Everything that has transpired up to this night. Again, we've had 3 sessions in person, and we have this session, our first virtual session. We've had some team members, staff members, principals, cabinet members. They have been working hard behind the scenes to make this night what it is going to be. All of the activities that you're going to engage in this evening, the breakout room process that you're going to engage in as well, the questions, everything has been thought out. It's been very deliberate. It's been very intentional. We want this to be a memorable experience for you. And we want you to really understand that we value your input and we want you to own this process. So the team I'm talking about on the left, you'll see on the slide, is the logistical team. They've been working for about 3 months behind the scenes, just putting everything together. And then you have on the right, you'll see a process team. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, but the process team is really that team that is going to meet. And it's a smaller team that's going to meet, and they're going to synthesize all of the conversations that's been happening. So again, as I've shared, we've had 3 in-person meetings. We've had some very detailed conversations about our system, what our students want. We have had stakeholders to speak. And all of that feedback, all of that input needs to be processed. Well, that's going to be what we call the guiding coalition, the process team. They'll take everything that you're going to say this evening, they're going to synthesize it, and they're going to prep it for our next meeting. And we will have a next meeting. I'll let you know that at the end of the presentation. But again, I want to let you know that we've had a lot of people working very hard behind the scenes. But then again, there's a process team that's going to meet after this evening to gather all of your input, all of your feedback, and it's called the Guiding Coalition. They'll put all that information together for our next meeting. Next slide. So you've heard me talk about the equity audit again and again. This has been a great experience in just uncovering our current reality. Some of the things that have come out of the equity audit from Illuminate Ed Collective was that we want to make sure that we have authentic stakeholder engagement and communication. It was really important that all of our stakeholders participate. And there was this sense, as this information came to me, that parts of the community felt like we did not engage, or we do not engage authentically with our stakeholders, and that has to change. What can we do better? So we know as we go through the strategic planning process, it was important, again, that we had authentic stakeholder engagement and communication in the process. Also, something that came out of the equity audit is we want to pay attention in this process to access. We want to make sure that we pay attention to equity, that every student has the resources, the materials that they need to be successful to reach their goals so that they can achieve as well. So that's going to be paid attention to throughout this process. And then one of the other things that came out of the equity audit was our systems and structures. We have a lot of work to do in this area. And I've shared again and again that we're lacking systems, we're lacking structures, we're lacking alignment as well. And for us to really have our students achieve what they desire to achieve, their goals, we need to pay attention to our systems and structures and making sure everything is aligned. Next slide. So this is what I was referring to, and I want to just back up for a second when I was talking about the Guiding Coalition. And remember, the Guiding Coalition is that group that's going to synthesize all of this information that's going to be discussed this evening, in addition to the other 3 sessions that were in person. So as you see to the left, as I'm looking at the screen, we've reached out to students. So we have a student that's going to participate as part of the Guiding Coalition, a teacher, administrator, a classified personnel, a cabinet member, and then I've reached out to all of the unions. We have 5 union leaders, and we've asked them to send a representative from each union. We don't have a school board member, but this certainly will go to our school board. They've been actively participating even in these sessions. And of course, we have our parents and guardians. We have our community members from community organizations. So we have a member from each one of those, with the exception of the school board, the unions. We have 5 since there's 5 unions. And that makes up the team of the guiding coalition. So we wanted to make sure that we heard from a diverse perspective of individuals in our community to help us to synthesize this information and moving forward. Next slide. So here's what we're doing this evening, and here's what's really exciting. We get to have conversations about our future, our ideal state. So one of the things that we're going to engage in deeply, and especially this evening, is our vision. Like, where do we want to be in the next 5 to 10 years for our students? A snapshot in the future. One of the outcomes of this process is to come up with a vivid, a compelling vision statement. And the great thing about it is that you get to participate in this. You get to own this process. This will be our statement. And I can share with you that I am not the superintendent that just simply creates statements and then they sit on the shelf. And I'm going to just back up for a second and share with you why I'm not that person and why this is going to be something that we're going to implement, and you'll hold me accountable for it. Vision, mission, core values, I categorize all of these things as governing ideas. And they're important for me because it's been my life. It's my lifestyle. And many of you know my background. I grew up in a military household. My father was in the Army, and he always shared with all of his kids his belief system. He always shared with us his purpose, his mission. He always shared with us that we too, his kids, we have a purpose as well. He shared with us his core values. He lived his core values. And I lived with this man for nearly 20 years, and then I went into the Marine Corps. And in the Marine Corps, I got another taste of these governing ideas: mission, vision, and core values. So you have to understand that it's important to me that we focus on these core ideas. So they're not just words, it's not just a phrase, it's something that I live by. And I become concerned when there's organizations that don't have these governing ideas. And I've actually made decisions whether or not to be a part of organizations that really are not living their vision or their mission or their core values. So this is not an arbitrary exercise that we're going through. This is something I believe in, and I'm asking us to own and understand this. Everything that you say this evening, we may not use the term vision, we may not use the term mission, we may not use the term core values, but everything you say is going to be captured in the breakout room. You're going to have facilitators in these rooms. They're going to be listening intently to what you're saying. And they're going to capture these words. And that's what I mean by this guiding coalition. They're going to synthesize everything that you're saying and bring back. And we're going to say, here's what was said. Now let's start crafting. Let's start looking first at commonalities, and then let's start crafting our vision statement, our mission statement. But also on that third bullet, you see a graduate profile. And the graduate level profile is just simply, what is it that we want our students to know and be able to do when they graduate? What are those skills that we want them to have? Now, we probably have some ideas about the skills, but you've talked to people, you've heard the community talk about the skills we want our students to have. You've heard business partners talk about, here's the skills that our students need to have when they leave the schools. This is all part of the conversation that we're having over the next 3 sessions, and why it's so important. Every word that you say matters this evening. Next slide. So let's think about this. If we go back a year or two, you think about when the pandemic began, And certainly the source is in 2021. But if you think about the questions that are being asked, these are questions that we were thinking about at that time. Is it safe to go to a hospital? You know, so just remember during the beginning of the pandemic, we were thinking these things. I was thinking these things. Should I eat in a restaurant? Can I hug my parents or grandparents? How long will I have to homeschool my children? What will happen if I can't work remotely? Will live sports ever return to TV? When can I attend a concert or go to a movie again? And I'm sure we all remember this question: what should I do if my family runs out of toilet paper? And what does Google say about making my own hand sanitizer? So I want to just pause there for a second and just share with you that really the importance of this slide for me is, you know, how we've had to adjust during this pandemic and how we've had to plan during this pandemic at a moment's notice. And I'll just share with you my experience during this time when the pandemic began. I was a superintendent in Washington State. And I remember we transitioned quickly to virtual learning across the state of Washington, everyone. But I also remember that there were a lot of inequities that came to the surface for our students. We had students that didn't have access to Chromebooks. We had students that didn't have access to Wi-Fi. And how did we plan at a moment's notice? So up there in Washington, we planned and we got our students Chromebooks. Every student had a Chromebook to take home. Every student was provided a hotspot as well. We had all of our fleet of buses. We outfitted them with Wi-Fi and we put them strategically in the neighborhoods so that at any point or during certain times throughout the evening, those students could go surround themselves around a bus that had Wi-Fi and they could access the Wi-Fi and they could do the work. We also took measures and we put access points on every single building so that if there wasn't a bus driver available to turn on the bus to access the Wi-Fi, they can go to the parking lot of a facility and they could do their work there. I think my point is we were in a situation that required us to make immediate changes. We had to plan immediately. And I'm challenging us to say that I think we have to always be in this stage where we're planning constantly. Education has to be dynamic. And what we're doing for our kids, it has to be dynamic. Next slide. So this quote goes to what I was just saying. What interested us last year might be irrelevant this year. And we saw that, absolutely. What confused us yesterday might have more clarity today. Planning just a few steps ahead can keep us open to rethinking. And that's why we are here, to plan, to rethink education. Next slide. So I wanted to just share on this slide some of the stressors from the pandemic. And again, my experience in Washington. And I shared this with the first of these sessions where I engaged with some personnel and they had to make really tough decisions on whether they were going to leave the education profession or not, because they really had to make sure that their kids were taken care of. And many of them came from single parent households. So it was either I have to work or I need to take care of my kids. And it was really stressful. I engaged in conversations and people broke out in tears. They didn't want to give up their job, but they had to give up their job because they needed to take care of their kids. So something for us to really think about, even in our system, as we think about and plan for the future of our kids, what needs to happen? How do we need to redesign our system? How do we need to rethink everything that we're doing? Next slide. So this is what we're going to do. I've talked a lot. We're getting ready to go into a break room. You're going to have 15 minutes to engage in a powerful conversation around these two questions. And again, I shared with you that there's going to be a facilitator in there. They're going to be capturing everything that you share. Every word you say matters. And think about what I said about our system and how we need to rethink our system. So the first question is, how have we seen education emerge stronger as a result of COVID? The second question you're going to engage in, what else might be possible? What else might be possible for schooling on the other side of the pandemic? If you have any clarifying questions, you can ask your facilitator. We're going to allow you 15 minutes to go into the breakout rooms. Thank you so much.
Okay, they're not assigning, so I'm just going to go ahead and assign people real quick. If the facilitators could go ahead and go to their rooms, that'd be great. Hi, Stella. Hold on just a moment. I am not sure which room I should be putting you in. Let me see here. Okay. So the rest of you who are co-hosts, actually, you can choose a room. So Stella, I think you can see I don't know who is in need of your service right now. Sorry about that. So all of you who are students, let's see, everyone should be assigned. If you could go ahead and go into the room that you're assigned to, that would be great. Martin, are you able to see that you are assigned a room? Okay. Erica, are you able to see that you're assigned to a room?
Ms. Wong, does Dr. Hurst want school board members to go into a room too, or no?
Sure.
I think that would be great.
Oh wait, Dr. Hurst, are you able to get into your room?
I did, but I listened in, and I wondered if I had the ability to like kind of jump to different rooms to just kind of listen in.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Dr. Hurst, you're okay with me jumping in a room? You know, I have a takeover spirit. So should I just stay here or, oh, he left. Oh, no, there he is.
I think you should join the room, ma'am.
Definitely.
All right. It's your ball game. We'll see. All right, I'll see y'all in a minute. Bye.
Are you able to see them, Dr. Hurst? You can just go ahead and jump around.
Okay, let's see. I see him. Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks, Stella. I appreciate that. Hey, Sam,
Yeah, I'm here.
everything's going okay, right?
Yeah. The comments are okay, and I'm watching the screens,
Yeah, okay, great.
so we're doing well.
Okay, good.
And then I have the thought exchange open for when we need to share the screen.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
But how this has been implemented, I suppose, is not, well, I guess it differs in different places. So I think it's kind of a hard thing to do. But at least the idea that it's something to think about, I think, is important. And I'm glad that that's come up.
Hi, someone called for me. Someone needed help in this group. Is everyone okay? No?
Is every group supposed to have a moderator?
Let me see. Yeah, and I'm gonna make sure, I'm gonna ask him to come into this room. So hold on just a moment, please. I'll be right back. Go ahead and keep talking. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna move to another room here.
But Joseph,
Just FYI, there are about 10 minutes left. Welcome, Erica. I'm going to go ahead and put you into a breakout room. So if you could just hold on just a second. Thanks, Stella, for the backup. Mr. Pierce,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to go ahead and put you into a breakout room. Hang on just a second.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any aids for the English learner students. So it would do a lot of good. And I've seen the good that that teacher has done since they started coming into that class. You know, students' grades have turned around, and some students really do need someone who's there for that support, like one-on-one, or, you know, maybe a small group, like five to one. And, you know, I think just staffing to be the short answer, really.
Hey, Vinny, welcome. I'm sure Stella's happy to see you. We're coming back in just a let's see, in about 4 minutes.
Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Great.
Are you ready, Vinny? I'm about to bring everyone back. Okay. I do know my letters in ASL. So,
That's the first start. A few more signs and you don't need me.
a reminder to everyone that as you enter, you are muted. Welcome back, everyone.
Hi there. Sorry, Mr. Pierce. I think you got cut off in our session.
There's probably a few people that got cut off.
I think so.
Is everybody back though?
Yes.
So this is what we would like to do. I heard some very powerful comments and statements and very passionate comments as well. And if someone could help monitor the hands, what we want to do is to be able to have a report out from each of the breakout rooms, just in response to those two questions, the big ideas So if we could just deal with that first question first. I'm not sure if we can put that on the board.
Dr. Hurst, I can put up the note take. I don't know if anyone can see this. I can move through some of the tables if we want to do it this way. I'm not sure. Or do you just want me to put the questions up?
Just the questions.
Okay, let me go out.
So just to prep yourself, we're just going to be responding some of the big ideas that were shared in your group. The first question, how have we seen education emerge stronger as a result of COVID? And then the second question, we're going to just ask that you share out as well. What else might be possible for schooling on the other side of the pandemic? So if we can just monitor the hands and we see a hand, if we can call on that person, that breakout room, and we can just allow them to share.
Folks can actually use the reactions at the bottom of the screen. If you click there, you can raise your hand.
So let's respond to the first question first. How have we seen education emerge stronger as a result of COVID?
Dr.
Sure.
Hurst, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to share that in my room, what was interesting is I had two people who worked at the schools, and one person was really excited about the grants that had been offered with community schools. And another person was talking about all of kind of the technological advances that teachers had to make in working in distance learning. So those two things were seen as strengths.
Thank you. Is there another breakout room that wants to respond to that question?
Go ahead, Angelica.
Okay, yeah, so hi everyone. Yeah, one thing that I personally said was that and some of the other students in there actually agreed with me, was that I guess we got more exposed to technology, and we kind of had to teach ourselves how to use technology, so we kind of had to get used to it, be more on track with our emails, how to send emails, so yeah, stuff like that. But I also want to voice I think it was a parent who said that honestly her child struggled during online learning. So during the pandemic, it was pretty hard, and they don't think that there was really an education that emerged stronger during the pandemic. So
Thank you, Angelica. Is there another room, breakout room, that wants to respond?
Yes, I have an insight to add on our first question. I know that we had some teachers and other community members in our group breakout room, and one thought that was mentioned was that there were more ways to be creative in the classrooms from a teacher perspective. There were a lot of new insights about how to keep students engaged, and that some of those ideas have transferred over into our current state. And so that's creativity element has really been a great factor for teachers and students.
Thank you so much, Kyra. I thought I saw Danny.
Danny, yep, Danny had her hand up.
Hi, so in our breakout room, it was myself. I'm a parent for high schoolers, and it was elementary school parent. For me, I just felt like I had to really fight so hard to get its teacher engagement. Like, they wanted paperwork, they wanted homework in by like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. It's like, I don't get off work till 4:30. Give me time to get home and make sure they were doing what they were supposed to do. And with some individuals, I think they forgot that parents were still working during the pandemic. We weren't just like at home, not working. So it was hard to balance students being at home, online, high schoolers, and parents working. Not what's going on, is your camera on? Are you getting up in time? And I just had to fight really hard to like get a understanding with teachers. I had to hire private tutors because it was just a total disconnect. It's kind of like ninth was. I don't think my kids got too much out of it. If it wasn't for the private tutors, I honestly don't think my kids would have made it through. That's just my opinion.
Thanks, Danny.
But that's what we were talking about also in
Yeah.
the breakout room. It was a disconnect with the teachers and the kindergartners trying to do online school was kind of hard.
All right. Thank you, Danny. I'm sorry if I say your name incorrectly. Hadia, you're next.
Got it right. Thank you. I just was listening to the sister Danny, and I'm a mother of 4 sons. My last son he graduated last year, and it was really hard with him too. I think he became very isolative. He played basketball. He did, he was a very social child, and it was really difficult for him. It was really difficult for him to get structured too in that way because he was so used to being in his classes. So, he didn't like it at all. He didn't like not being at school. I think I talked about in our group around, it wasn't just COVID that happened. It was the death of George Floyd. It was the president and all the things that came along with that. And so it really gave, if anything, it gave our society really a real time to just focus, not even focus, but be aware of things that have been part of our society for a very long time. And so when you say, I was taken, and I get it, but I was taken back while we're saying what's the strengths of it. I don't see too many strengths other than that we acknowledge the thing. And many people have now seen these things because we've slowed down. We've been in a place that we weren't all outside and, socializing and everything. I think we have a lot more to do. But yeah, I wanted to talk about and really talk about anti-racism that really came about really around this time. And hopefully we don't just talk about it, we be about it.
Thank you.
Darcy, you're next.
Hadia just encapsulated everything perfectly. So I think I'll just add that, we didn't really come to a real consensus on how education emerged stronger, other than we saw needs that need to be met. In addition to the equity work that desperately has to continue, it's doing a better job of looking at our children's individual needs, and do a better job of honoring their individuality, providing them with more opportunities for agency, and really looking at how we are using the data that we're collecting, and really making sure if we're taking time to get data, or we're making board resolutions that state that we're going to get particular outcomes, that we are accountable for what we're stating is going to be the result.
Thank you, Darcy. I'm going to pass it on to the Beaulieus. Ellen?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing that I felt like was said in our room that I haven't heard yet. And that is, some people commented that the one thing they really saw better was that bullying and things where children had felt threatened at school actually got a little bit better in the distance ed. But then when we came back to school, the safety issues at school seem to be far worse. And that moving forward, we really have to take a better command of school safety on campus. And a lot of the events that are happening are really troubling for parents to receive notifications about all of these incidents that are happening at school. Just a revisit of safety to help us emerge stronger as a result.
Thank you so much. We want to make sure, Ms. Hatcher.
Hey, thank you. I'm also reading in the chat. I think there was a comment in the chat about the question, like the question presupposes that there are people who who have seen about the possibility of education emerging stronger. I was just thinking about that, and I think again, there was the possibility, right? There was a possibility of us doing something different, in not trying to replicate the same old thing, because while school as it was, there was another comment that talked about the archaic system of school. While school as it was did work for some people, it did not work for all people. It did not work for all people pre-pandemic. Mm-hmm. It did not. And like, we have to acknowledge that. And so then in coming back, we're going, well, we need to do these things. These are problems. They were always problems. They were always problems. What the pandemic did for people who maybe weren't paying attention beyond their own particular situation is put other people's situation into a sharper focus. You couldn't look elsewhere. There was nowhere else to look. But the possibility of it being better, the possibility of thinking outside the box, which I think is why it bothers me so much when people say, let's get back to normal. Normal wasn't good for everybody. Normal wasn't good for everybody. It wasn't hitting before the pandemic. It's not going to hit after. So we have to challenge ourselves to really push ourselves outside of our comfort zones to what is going to be the most beneficial for those folks who are involved in this endeavor. And that would be students, families, and the practitioners as well. I think people did the best they could with what they had at the time. So I'm never going to I'm not going to knock teachers. I think most teachers did the absolute best that they could. I think that site administrators did the best that they could. I think we all did that, not ever having to deal with anything like this, but there is absolutely room to be better as long as we can step away from wanting things to be back the way they were. Thank you, Dr. Hurst.
Dr. Hurst, if I could just add, and I put that in the chat, there's a great article out there that the New York Department of Education uses called 9 Big Questions. And one of the things they say in it is normal wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Like, we have to do better. Yeah.
And I just wanted to add to the conversation as well. And I heard a few things in the breakout rooms. I think we all need to understand that's why we're going through this process. And why we wanted to involve so many stakeholders, and the one parent that said we need more to come to the table, I absolutely agree. I also heard one gentleman talk about we're certainly not where we need to be. And there was even this conversation about, just this work that we're doing. We're coming up with a mission statement, we're coming up with a vision statement, and what is that going to do? So just to answer that, I talked about at the very beginning, governing ideas. These ideas, they provide us clarity and they provide us direction. The vision provides us a direction on where we're going to head. The mission talks about our core beliefs, our core purpose, and we need to really have a common understanding of where our district is going to go over the next 5 or 10 years. We need to understand our why, our beliefs, and why we're doing things. We need to know and be able to articulate the skills that we want our students to be able to do. And I will say what Ms. Hatcher said, also, we do have to get out of our comfort zones, that we can't continue to do the same things that we've always done. And we do have to challenge the status quo. We have to think differently. I agree 100%. But that's why we are here, to have these tough conversations, but then provide direction and clarity as a community. But understand, this is really laying the groundwork for more work that needs to be done. So we'll have our mission, we'll have our vision, we'll have our core values. We'll even have like a graduate profile so we can report out the progress, because I heard someone say that in the breakout room as well. But I think one of the things we have to understand is after we have this all designated, there's going to be much deeper work that really talks about how do we get there? So how do we get there? So we need to have clear direction, which is what this conversation is about. But then there's going to be a much deeper conversation with us, with the community, with all departments, like, this is our vision, this is our mission. Now we need to talk about how do we get there? How does HR, human resources, need to act and behave to get us to this compelling vision? How does teaching and learning need to act and behave to get us to this compelling vision? What does our curriculum need to look like, feel like, be like, for us to get to this compelling vision? So there's a much deeper body of work that needs to happen. So I want you to understand that this is all for a purpose, and it all ties into the strategic planning process. So again, thank you for all of your comments, but I see.
Can we get one more? Please?
Yep.
Gonzalez, thank you.
Ruby's hand, yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry, thank you. I just, in reading the questions, like Christine was mentioning, we in our group, we focused on in answering the question. We could think of many things that were negative, but we tried to answer that specific question. And one of them that I brought up is that it gave access to every single child to a tablet, which in turn allowed them to be able to go to the library virtually every single day at their, whenever they need it. It allowed them to do their assignments online. It gave us the option that if there is a smoke day or whatever, an earthquake, whatever it is, now children have an option to continue their education at home without leaving their home, because of dangerous situations. It allowed, at our school, it allowed us to have a read aloud, virtual read aloud, principal and vice principal, every single Wednesday. So kids would come in their bedrooms, in their pajamas with their teddy bear and their blankets. It's something that we wouldn't have been able to do every Wednesday, at 7 o'clock, if it were not for them having their tablets. It allowed for teachers to visit their students at home virtually every single day, Monday through Friday. So those are things that, and as an administrator, I had to mention, I couldn't help it. It allowed us to get rid of a lot of the paper pencil testing that took hours and hours to try to figure out and erase marks on booklets and packing and all of that. And now kids, we were testing at school today, and we're able to do it virtually. So, and kids are savvy enough to be able to do it. So those are just a few things that I mentioned at our group, but there were very good comments in my group, and we had a terrific note taker. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Let's take some comments also from the second question. What else might be possible for schooling on the other side of the pandemic? Any comments from any group? And I think I did already hear some of those comments already, but just want to make sure that everyone has had the opportunity to share. Okay, we're going to move to the.
Sorry, Dr. Hurst. One thing that was mentioned in our group was the mental health work needs to continue at all levels. More access to mental health is super important. Also, being able to start off the school year with the SEL curriculum will be very helpful in planning for the different sites, and that continue the work of teachers reaching out to students and parents is very important, along with a clear messaging to families from the sites and from the district of what are some of the next steps.
Thank you, Mr. De Leon.
So agreeing with Mr. De Leon, our group said the same thing. Adding on to that, the flexibility for students and their schedules was raised, along with dedication to PD for teachers, continuing conversation around structural racism. And then also what was brought up was mastery-based grading. It emerged during the pandemic, and it was based on more of what students know rather than how they how many times they handed in assignments, things like that. It was a really great conversation.
Thank you so much.
I think I'm Cheryl Lane. What I think emerged and what has come across in this conversation was just the need to systematize all the things that we want to see. So whether it's more support for mental health, social emotional learning, two-way communication, things that teachers learn that was helpful. I think to me, all of this goes back to how we creating a stronger system. So one thing that happened at one school, but then you don't see it across the district and across the system. And so I think what must be possible is that we actually in this district get to a point where we're learning what a system looks like and actually put systems in place.
Thank you, Cheryl.
As a current high school senior, speaking from my experience and the experience of a lot of the people I know, the mental health state of students is really, really bad right now. I think it would be great if we had a lot more of an emphasis on providing students with mental health counseling. At my school, I attend El Cerrito High School. We have something called the JMP, and it does provide mental health counseling, but there's a pretty lengthy backup, like a big line in order to get a hold of a therapist. And I think especially with the advent of COVID providing everyone with the skills necessary to like meet with people online through Zoom or whatever, it would be a lot easier for people to get access to therapy. And I think it should be something that we normalize and help students get access to, because at least from my experience, I think it's something that's sorely needed.
Thank you, sir. I think Cole.
Yeah, hey everybody. From a student's point of view, just as the previous people were saying, I spent my 2020 year as a senior and pretty much spent the last end of it in the pandemic and in the beginning of the pandemic. And just to speak to the mental health aspect of it, I can say as to myself and as to many of my friends who were students, the mental health decline within the pandemic was extreme. Many people developed a lot of problems and a lot of things were going on for them. And, you know, a lot of the people that like me and the people that I know have gone on to college now, and those problems are following them. What I'd like to sort of focus on now is the students that are still in elementary schools all the way to high schools and how this mental health is affecting them, because it is a big thing. What I'd like to see in the future is a lot more in-depthness within the health departments within schools, or the whatever you'd like to call them. I just call them the health departments within schools, or the health centers, needing to offer a lot more mental health education, a lot more mental health programs for these students, because coming out of the pandemic, me myself developed a lot of mental health problems that extremely affected me as into going into college and other things within life. And now I am an intern for Healthy Richmond coming up this summer, and I'll be working with a lot of you guys, but I'm focusing on maybe, you know, how can we change these health centers, and how can we sort of move them into working harder on mental health, because a lot of these students coming out of the pandemic are going to be extremely affected by that. Staying at home every day is not something that every student wants to do. Right. So, I mean, that's sort of my input on it as a student and as an educator.
Thank you so much, Cole. Ms. Bell?
Something else, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Something else I've noticed is that for me as a high schooler, now it's more like you take more care about your grades rather than actually learning, because it's like if you turn in something, you'll know that you'll at least get part of the grade, instead of actually like focusing or like doing the actual work, or like teachers putting more effort into showing us the actual work. So now it's kind of just like they leave it all to like videos online or like Google Docs assignment. And sometimes it's just like, okay, the video is there and the video gives you the answer. But if me as a person, I still don't understand the answer, that's not really helping me in a way. So I feel like focusing more on actually teaching than just the grading part of it would actually also help.
Thanks, Bernice. And I think that's Ellen.
Yes, thank you so much again for providing this platform. I think one thing that I want to really applaud the students for advocating for the shift in their own mental health and wellness, but I would also like to advocate for the tremendous amount of
impact that the past 2 years have had on educators, faculty and staff, and administrators, the level of innovation they've had to have to meet the diverse needs of our students. As an educator myself, I'm frequently saying, I just feel like I'm getting pushed all the time. There's all these push notifications, and that can be really overwhelming and cognitively burdensome for especially faculty who want to have that higher touch reach out to students, because then they all of us, I mean, as educators, we're frequently just feeling like we're never doing enough. And I think all the notifications and digital, while it helps to enhance communication in some ways, it can also be a stressor on teachers. So I want to advocate for the mental health and wellness of the educational staff as well, in this evolution and thinking forward. But also, it got really expensive to live here. And frankly, I'm really worried about retaining our quality teachers and innovators. And so, I mean, I don't know about state government levels or these types of innovative teach for the Bay Area type package or something to retain our amazing educators. Thank you so much for the work you're doing, everybody.
Thanks, Ellen. I think I see David and then Danny again.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but to build off what Bernice said, like I heard teachers just give out videos and stuff. I agree with that. People, like, I have seen teachers just give ed puzzles, Google surveys, stuff like that. But there's also a middle ground that needs to be met where there's most students that like long lecture teaching classes. And then there's also students that like short, like simplified work assignments. So it feels like teachers would need to find that middle ground or have to have a class discussion or whatever they want to do to like meet the students' needs. Because most students don't have a long enough attention span to like sit through an hour, 30-minute class, so like a very long period class to like learn. Like with me, I have a very short attention span. So like when I get work, I rather have it either in a video or 30, 20-minute explanation. Give me the work, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So it feels like teachers should try and find a middle ground to where it involves all the students needs when it comes to giving lesson plans and stuff like that.
Thanks so much, David. Appreciate it. And Danny?
Oh, so we're going to switch interpreters. Just wanted to let you know.
Okay.
Can you pin the other interpreter?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you.
For me, I would like to just see educators work with the parents more. Like if you see a student, not when progress reports are coming out, or like if you see a student failing or seeing that they may need help, just shoot the parent an email. Or I know it's hard because you have a lot to balance, but just shoot the parent an email or message saying, hey, I noticed that so-and-so's struggling here. I can recommend a tutor or a free online app. I know we have Power School and we can check that, but I would like for there to be more of a connection between parents and teachers, because we support the teachers also. We're not against the teachers. I'm not. It's just certain things could be done differently as far as letting certain students fall between the cracks. We don't have to wait till the last minute or graduation year. We can kind of nip things in the bud now, and to where the students not feeling bad or feeling like they're less than academically. We can just kind of create a bridge. And I would like to see the students that graduate come back and teach if we can make it more monetary.
Yes, ma'am.
But I would love to see that. I would love to see a lot of those students come back and teach.
Yeah.
And help be a change. That's ultimately what I would like to see.
I also saw that in the chat as well, Danny. So thank you for saying that. And Mr. Glatzer shared that in the chat. So thank you, sir. Let's do this. Let's transition and listen to our students. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts from the breakout rooms. We have, I believe, 5 students here. I'm going to introduce them, tell you what school they attend, and then I'm going to ask 3 questions. Each of them will respond. And then we'll have the opportunity also for you to ask them some questions as well. And then we'll do a little activity where we get to capture your thoughts. But first we have Ayaz Early he is from El Cerrito High School. I'd like to welcome him. We have Mia De Leon from De Anza High School. Thank you for being here, Mia. We have Sophia, and sorry if I destroy your name, Carrazzo Cruz from De Anza High School. And we have Martin Leung, he's one of our student trustees from Middle College High School, and Angelica Flores from Richmond High School. So thank you all for being here. And I have the first question that I'd like all of you to respond to. The first question is, in March 2020, you were either a freshman or sophomore when COVID changed your lives overnight. Talk to us about what you've learned about yourself over the past year and a half, and any experience as an elementary or middle school student that may have prepared you for this roller coaster ride. Just raise your hand and feel free to speak, students. Go ahead, sir. Ayaz.
Hi, everyone. I think it's important to understand I'm a high school senior right now, and before the pandemic, I didn't really have difficulty focusing in class. And now that I'm in my senior year and after online learning, I don't know why I expected it would just go back to that. I thought I would just regain that skill of being able to focus in class super easily. But me, and especially everyone in my classes, it's very apparent that it's super difficult for people to struggle. People are on their phones, people just aren't focusing. And I think it's important, if you're an educator, to understand that there are a lot of skills, not just focusing, that students just don't really have anymore. And I don't know how long it's going to take to regain those skills. Like, I was in our conventional schooling system for 10 years, and then 1 year online, and then 1 year back. But I can't imagine what it would be like to be like a third grader who was only in our school system for 2 years, and then had this massive like whiplash of going online for 1 year and then going back to this system and like rapidly going through all of these changes. I just think it's important to understand that you're not going to be able to go back to what it was before, because students just aren't like that. And I don't know how long it's going to take to get back to that point.
Go ahead, Martin.
You guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. So in March of 2020, I was a freshman at Middle College High School, and Middle College High School, it is a dual enrollment program at Contra Costa College, a community college in San Pablo. And it was approachable for me to come into this distance learning model. I would say it wasn't what I expected. I would definitely say it's unorganized on both the district and the college's standpoint. We didn't really have class periods, and we kind of just did assignments and submitted them for the rest of the school year. But the school year after that, my sophomore year, it was more organized. More teachers were getting used to using Zoom conferencing and other forms of digital media and presenting with digital media. And I would say, as an elementary and middle school student, what helped the most was definitely use of computers. I went to Olinda Elementary School in WCCUSD, and I would say that technology literacy, that's a really big thing. And as we plan for the curriculum in the future, it's definitely advised to add more technical literacy using the Google Suite, Microsoft Suite, etc. Something simple and accessible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to hear from Bernice.
So what I learned about myself in the last 19 months was that going from an A to B kind of student really went down when we went through online, because it was really hard doing that transition of thinking that it was only going to be 2 weeks off of school, and then like getting the email telling me that it's like, well, it's not going to be 2 weeks, and we don't know until how long we will be back or if we'll ever be back again. So that was very difficult. And online was very difficult as well because everybody was just trying to figure it out. And honestly, I don't think anything from middle school or elementary school, aside from the fact of being introduced to a tablet, could have prepared me or I think anybody for what was going to happen and what has still yet to happen during these times. So I think it was a very challenging, these were very challenging moments.
Thank you, Bernice. Angelica?
Hi, everyone. My name is Angelica. I'm from Richmond High. I'm a senior at Richmond High. And I guess it was pretty difficult for me. Like what Bernice said, I was a straight A student, and then I quickly, once the pandemic hit, I quickly dropped to straight Fs. And that was pretty overwhelming for me. I quickly became super antisocial. I was a social person. I I just became super antisocial. Didn't even want to get out of my room. I'm usually very I like to gather myself with my parents, with my family. I'm an only child. So just that I was just pushing my parents away. I felt very alone during those moments. I also had to go through almost experiencing near-death situation with my dad when he got COVID. So I was struggling. I even I got depression, and but yeah, I mean, and I just can't imagine, me being in Richmond, me being a student in Richmond. I can't imagine all my other classmates in Richmond, all the other students in Richmond. How hard it must have been, especially knowing that I had other teenage friends that their parents lost their jobs, and now they were the ones that they were depending on for a source of income. So they had to quickly take over and get a full-time job, even with extra hours, overtime. And they didn't even go to school. They had to go to work to get money just so that they could still have a house to live in, right? And they also had to take care of their siblings because their parents had to go to work. So honestly, literally nothing. I personally believe that middle school and elementary school didn't prepare me at all, didn't prepare anyone at all, because who knew about this? Who knew this was gonna happen, right? Even teachers were struggling with this as well. It wasn't only us, it was also teachers. So it's it was overwhelming. We were learning, they were learning, parents were learning, right? Because also, I've heard, little kids, kindergartners, first graders, second graders, their parents were struggling. It was almost as if they were the student, right? So it was they had to go to work and then come back and worry about, oh, I have to help my kid with this assignment. And sometimes teachers would get mad because they could tell that the parent did their assignment. So it was it was hard, right? A lot of students couldn't learn. I didn't learn at all. Right now I'm struggling with math. I'm so behind. I also got super lazy, I feel like. And I also had friends that they didn't wear glasses. Now they came back wearing glasses because of their vision getting super bad, because they were inside of a room, dark room, behind a screen all day. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty hard on everybody. I don't think that elementary school, middle school was anywhere beneficial to me, knowing because we weren't facing an educational problem. It was mostly life situations, how to face life situations, how to cope with that. Being alone, it was hard.
Thank you, Angelica. I see David has his hand raised.
Hi, my name is David Anderson. I'm a student at Sylvester Greenwood Academy. And when COVID hit, we were told just gonna be taking 2 weeks off, but then it kept getting extended and extended to the point where we weren't even gonna be back anymore. So during those months of COVID, it really took a toll on me. I was a very extroverted person, and then just that hitting, it really affected me heavily by like I couldn't see anyone, none of my friends and my family members, and I just had a social decline in general. Like I was pushing a lot of my parents away. I was starting to begin to like get more aggravated and irritated at like very small things. My grades had a very steep fall, and overall, I just like, and I was working on myself. I was getting better, and I learned that just to be persistent. Like you just gotta keep pushing, and if you just keep going, things are gonna get better. And that's what happened now. So once we had gotten out off of COVID, it was really nice. It was a good first step for me. Um, and things that elementary and middle school taught me. This isn't. I don't know if it's gonna be like bad or anything, but like elementary and middle school taught me you're not gonna like everyone you have, whether it's a teacher, staff member, or classmate. You're not gonna like everybody that you're surrounded by. And I'm happy I learned that at a very young age because it really helped me to learn when to talk, when to bite my tongue, how to talk to people, how to respond to people, how my own body language, other people's body language, and I'm really grateful for that. I learned that at a very young age.
Thank you, David. Okay, we're going to go to question number 2 for our students. As you think about what lies ahead, whether it's college, job, military, or the big world, is there anything you wish you learned or experienced in elementary or middle school that would make you feel better prepared? And just raise your hand, whoever would like to go first. Go ahead, Ayaz.
As I think I mentioned before, I'm a high school senior and I'm going to be going off to college next year. And something I've been a little concerned about is I wish that at some point in high school, I was taught good nutritional values and how to cook some very simple meals. And I think I'm not like an administrator, but I don't think it would be that difficult to implement a class where we could teach people how to make cheap, nutritious, simple meals that aren't that difficult. And I think when I go to college, that's obviously going to be a bit of a roller coaster for me. But thankfully, I'm a pretty well-off person. I'm sure I'll have the resources in order to gain those skills. But I think for a lot of people, especially low-income students, they won't have access to those resources. And then when they're looking for a cheap meal to eat in college, they're probably just going to end up eating fast food, and that can lead them down a pretty unhealthy path. I think it would be really great if in our schools we taught students skills like that.
Thank you, Ayaz. Martin?
I would say one skill is leadership. In elementary and middle school, I would say a lot of leadership skills and classes aren't really taught. So public speaking, how to represent yourself like as a larger community. A lot of these skills are kind of like put on the back burner. They're not really talked about. I would say to increase the classes that students can be, immersed in this type of environment where they can publicly speak and talk about their experiences. It's really important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin.
Dr. Hurst, Mia has her hand up, kind of. She put her hand up in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Sorry, Mia. I didn't mean to overlook you. Go ahead, Mia.
It's okay. Something I wish I would have known or like to learn is definitely like money management, because ending high school and getting a job soon and saving that financial money for college, I think management classes or just how to handle your money would have been very beneficial, especially right now, since, you know, there's a lot of spendings that you're doing being in school and prepping for applications if you take AP classes, and being able to know how to distribute that money and how to save it. I think having those financial courses available would have been very helpful.
Thank you so much, Mia. Angelica?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and repeat, I guess, or shine a light to what Martin and Mia said. Firstly, what Martin said about leadership. I guess me being a shy person when I was growing up, I was always told, you know, I had teachers back then, they weren't that good, to be honest. They would always put me down every time. I was always a person that would like to participate in class. I was always the first one to raise my hand, and I was always put down because I didn't let others speak, when in reality they never raised their hand, right? So I was like, okay, but who's gonna share, right? So I think I always had that in me. I always wanted to speak out. Always wanted to share out. So I guess now growing up, once I was in high school, that's where I started being more exposed to and my teachers would uplift me, and they would always encourage me to raise my hand, encourage me to share out, and they would encourage me to, you know, my principal, Mr. De Leon, he encouraged me to run to be a student trustee, right? And that's something that I think, if I look back and I'm like, oh no, you know, I guess if I were to go back and tell my elementary school self, like, oh, these are all the things you're going to be doing, this is the way that you're going to speak now, right? I wouldn't have believed myself, right? And I wouldn't have believed that I would be doing this right now. So and speaking up for my classmates, the people that I'm representing, right? So teaching us more leadership skills is very important, especially in Richmond, because I know a lot of students, they don't really like raising their hands. They're always scared to raise their hands. They're not used to advocating for themselves, and that's something very important. And I think everybody should learn how to advocate for themselves. And also, what means yeah, I agree. I think we should also learn how to finance, you know, manage our money management classes, more entrepreneurial classes, finance classes, more, what else? I have a personal finance class, and I'm learning how to file my taxes, right? And that's something that I wouldn't have even ever known. And there's some students that are like already 18, some are like 19, right? They were like, oh, I had to file my taxes, you know? And it's like, come on now, like, these are things that we should know already, right? And we're not knowing that. And I'm just learning about this. I feel like I should have known this since freshman year, right? Since middle school even. I need to be ready for the real world. So I think that's everything.
Thank you, Angelica.
Dr. Hurst, if we could hear from Mia or Sophia.
Sophia, yeah.
Mia and Sophia again?
Yeah.
Well, Sophia, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't raise my hand. I don't have like the reaction thing, but so one thing for me is that I really struggle with right now is time management. Right now I really struggle, like already during COVID. I really like talking to my friends. So when we got to COVID and I couldn't talk to them in real life, I kind of resorted to like social media and messaging. So now that I'm back in school, it's what I'm used to. So I'm usually always on my phone. It's really like messing with me and messing with my academics. And so instead of like doing that, I'm wasting my time on my phone and stuff like that. And I can't like get back into the schedule that I used to be. And then another thing as well is with time management, like it stresses me out because again, I'm on my phone, and I don't know how to manage my time right. Like I used to think I have like a really bad thing with how much time I think I have, because I think I have 30 minutes and all of a sudden it's like 5. It would be really helpful if like we were able to develop those skills through like while we're younger. And yeah, that's what I think that we should be able to.
Thank you, Sophia. And I see Bernice's hand up.
Yeah, I kind of want to shine more light on what Mia and Angelica said about finances. It's like sometimes my parents will ask me like, what does this paper say? Or like, what is it trying to tell me? And I'm kind of there also confused, like, I don't know what it says, and thinking about how that's kind of, that paper will be sent to me kind of soon. It's also like a little frustrating because it's like, well, I need to learn how to do this and my taxes, how to manage money, to save, because going to college, it's a lot of money. You're investing a lot of money in it, but you're also want to save a lot of money so that you yourself can eat properly, you know, your chores, you need to do laundry, shower, just hygienic stuff. And I would really like to see more of that at school. And also with the raising hand, I feel like during COVID, that was also like a thing that pushed us back, being on like cameras and everything like that. It was kind of like you could hide from it and not really answer for the teachers. But now that we're like back in school, it's kind of still like that. But now in school, we need to answer more. I feel like participation is something else that we need, being more active at school. So I feel like that would definitely help more.
Okay, I'd like to ask Mia she would like to speak. And then
Oh, sorry.
David, you'll be after Mia.
Okay.
I'm kind of tied on what like Sophia said about being on your phone from so long, from, you know, having the online classes. I think we got so used to always being on our phone and kind of not socializing anymore. I think maybe incorporating like public speaking classes at a younger age, that way we kind of get used to those concepts of talking to people, because I know we have those in college, but that's not so long that I think we should start developing them earlier.
Thank you, Mia. David?
I just want to say I wish more like public schools, like I used to go to De Anza, and when I attended the school, I wish they provided a lot more outlets to like scholarships, more workshops, programs, and like more opportunities for the students, like just outside of high school. And even if they're in high school, like outside of that, like summer programs, work programs for like seniors and stuff. Me personally, I just never saw a lot of that. And I wish more schools, and like just in general, would incorporate that more into their school, like schools. And another thing, schools need to teach like kids from like elementary, middle school, high school. It doesn't matter like what age, what grade. Schools really need to teach students there's more out there, like job wise. There's more, just a lot more out there, because that was a big thing I struggled with growing up, wherein I was always asked, oh, what do you want to be when you like grow up? Because they show you like such a small circle of like job opportunities. So once you get exposed to it, it's just so overwhelming. You don't know when to figure out what you want to be, or like if that's right for you. So I would just want like that to be incorporated, like showing like job opportunities, showing what kind of jobs are out there, what kind of fields are out there. More like, as I said, workshops, showing scholarships. And like another thing, like I think me personally, I think field trips would be like really good. Like field trips to like Cal Berkeley, I don't know, Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz. Like I think those would like be really good. So like high school students can like see what a college campus looks like what's out there after high school. And I don't know, that's just my thought process. I don't know if anyone else agrees, but that's just how I think.
Thank you for sharing that, David. And I do see a hand, Kiana Stocker.
What I was gonna say is the school need to teach us more in credit and good credit, and like have some stable and show that sometimes like things are important versus some things are not.
Thanks, Kiana.
The interpreter is having trouble hearing that response or that question. Could you repeat it?
Kiana, I'm not sure if you can repeat that.
I was saying that in like this, my school should have taught us credit versus like what's stable, like if we need this, or if we need that, to show us what we really need versus things we don't need in life.
Okay. Thanks, Kiana. And then our last question for our students is, what advice do you have for the adults in this room as they reimagine schooling for learners in West Contra Costa Unified School District? And who would like to go first? Angelica.
I guess some advice that I would give is to really listen to us students, really take into account what we're saying, because I mean, at the end of the day, we are the ones that face whatever decision is made. We're always the ones that are impacted. So really just take us into consideration and actually like listen to us. If we need something, write it down, make something happen. Also, I don't know what else to add except to listen to us, because I mean, I feel like by listening to us and actually taking action in what we're saying, it'll do so much. That's just a lot, So yeah.
Thank you. Ayaz.
I think throughout my 11 and a half years of high school, this is like super simple advice, but I think every student on this panel, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all of them would agree when I say, I really dislike when, whether it be teachers or principals or whatever, anyone in like the administration of our district tries to be like hip with the kids. And I think every single time I've seen them do it, it just falls so flat completely, and it ultimately undermines their point. And I think this is like universally agreed upon like in students from high school to elementary school. I just wish that this wouldn't happen, because I think it does a lot of damage when we're trying to make changes in our schools.
Thank you, sir. Bernice.
So some advice that I would give is something that was brought up a lot, which is mental health, not just for students. I know like everybody goes through it. So take into consideration our mental health and yours as well, because if we're not mentally stable, that can really impact us in a lot of bad ways, like not being able to do the work on time, not being able to understand. And it's not just like always us, it's also like family members. Like things can be happening to us, like during COVID. I myself got COVID, and my family did as well. And like thinking about how sick some of my family members did get, and it's like still having to do the work. So that was also a very huge thing that was kind of stressful. So I would say mental health.
Thank you, Bernice. And Kiana.
I would say give more students some time, because during the pandemic, some kids were learning at the same pace, but when got back, it got cut off track. So I would mostly say give students more time, because they don't all learn at the same pace as others will.
Thank you so much. David, and then Martin.
Simply put it, communicate. If you like this, like what we're doing right now is a perfect thing. I really hope that we do this more into the this year, to the future, 3 years from now. This is a great example of like what I've always wanted, just to communicate with you, and so you can understand where we're coming from. So like I would like for like the district or like staff members or like principals or whatever, if a student gives you an idea, just communicate. Don't say you're going to act on it and just never act on it. If you're not able to, either tell them or find a different solution to like help that student or students, because it's just wrong for like staff members to disagree or shut down a student's ideas completely without even taking regard how that student feels or how it's going to affect them, either current or in the future. And it's just, I don't know, it's just, I don't know. I just really appreciate that you're doing this right now, having this meeting, like listening to us and hear what we have to say. And yeah, but also, damn, what else? Oh no, I gotta think about it for a second. Sorry.
No problem, David. Thank you for your words, sir. Martin.
And I would agree with David. I would say communication is important. These events are the most helpful thing that both students and teachers could go to. I think for teachers, communication, for administrators, working with teachers on communicating, and for students is volunteering your hours to represent what you believe in these type of conferences and listening sessions. So I really appreciate the district for doing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. Bernice, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to add is I love the idea of we are the future. Like everything that we do will impact us, and you like the adults in our life will also impact us. So I would also say like be considerate and think about it. Like I would love to have great people in my life and not people who will bring me down.
Thanks, Bernice. And Mia.
Yeah, to kind of add on to like what David said, I definitely think teachers hearing us out more and allowing us to build those teacher-student relationships, because once we build those relationships with them, we're more likely to talk about the material we're not understanding, or if we need actual help with things, tutoring. If we have that connection with them, everything just goes much smoother, because I've experienced it my freshman year. I was close to all of my teachers, and those few that I was close with, I felt so comfortable just going up and asking for help because I knew they would help me.
Thank you, Mia. And David, I think you have another thought in Yaz.
Sophia would like to speak. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, Sophia first.
I really agree with the Mia thing like as well. Like right now, it's kind of hard to build like relationships with like teachers because they're so focused on like grading work and like us turning in work, but not like about how we're feeling and stuff like that. And I also agree with like Bernice about the mental health thing. Like right now, like a lot of our teachers, like they don't accept late work and stuff, but a lot of students are struggling with their mental health and it's hard for them to turn in work. So they can't bounce back. Like right now, I'm like a straight A student usually, but right now I have like a few C's because it's just hard for me to turn in work because I'm so stressed right now and I have a lot of things going out like on outside of school. And it's going to be hard for me to bounce back because my like teachers don't accept late work. And I think it's really important to take into account like that students have like other things to do, but they should be able to, if they want to, bounce back, because it's like if we want to like work hard, I'm willing to work hard, but I don't have the opportunity because they don't accept late work.
Thank you so much, Sophia. David and Ayaz.
Yeah, okay. So I finally found out what I was going to say. Teachers, like to build off of what I said, teachers need to build a relationship with students. Because like I know I've like me personally, I haven't had the best relationship with teachers, and I just if I had trouble, I just didn't do the work. Like I'd rather get a failing grade than have to deal with that teacher. And then another thing is like, this might be like when elementary teachers, like they take their students outside and they do like experiments with them, or like they do hands-on learning. I think that would like really like help a lot of like high school students, because like they like in high school they just give you a piece of paper or an assignment or an essay to do, and that's it. Like there's no communication, there's no connection building at all. So I feel like teachers should, I know there's teachers in here like try something new, try and leave the books a little, try and leave that trail of traditional teaching, like think outside the box. It feels like it would be a lot easier for you and the students to like work with each other. And also teachers need to like high school teachers with like juniors and seniors, because that's where we start working at, need to understand we have personal lives. We can't dedicate our entire life to just school and work, especially with some schools get out at like 3 something, and then student athletes, they get out of practice at like 7 to 8. That doesn't give them enough time to like sit down and do the work, because once you get home you're tired. Or like if you're going to work like straight after school, you don't want to go home and think about school. You want to go home and like take a shower, lay down, and do whatever you need to do. So it like teachers really need to understand, we understand you guys have personal lives, but we also have personal lives as well. Like it feels like that would make the like it's like the symbiotic relationship so much easier, because you guys benefit. We give you what you need, like good attention, good grades. We're giving you the work, and you give us the time to do the work, and an understanding and sympathy. That's just like my take on it.
Thanks, David. And then our final thoughts from Ayaz.
I think a lot of people, a lot of students here said that they were super grateful that we've been given this platform to voice our criticisms and our thoughts. And I totally agree. I think it's great that we have this opportunity to have our voices be heard. But I really wish that I had this opportunity earlier in high school, because I only have like 5 weeks left at this school district. Realistically, a lot of the things that I've said today aren't going to make an impact on my schooling experience because I'll be gone. And I think a lot more people would be much more inclined to voice their criticisms and say what they have to say if they actually felt like change was going to happen. And I'm not super sure how this process works. I only joined this last minute, but if you only have it open to juniors and seniors, it might come across as feeling like whatever they say isn't going to make a big enough impact in their time in high school, and they might just think, what's the point, and then not participate. But again, I want to thank you for this platform. I think it's a really great thing.
Thank you. And if we can just give our students just a round of applause. I know they can't hear us, but thank you so much. I really appreciate all of our stakeholders too, just listening to our students' voice, and I think this is really important. And we're over time, but I think it's really important for us to listen to our students. So thank you for your patience. This is what I would like you to do. If you could just bear with me for just a little bit more. I want us to think about and process what our students were saying. And what I want you to do is to go to the chat, and I want you to write in the chat something that resonated with you. However, I don't want you to hit the enter button yet. Just write something that resonated with you that our students have shared. Put it in the chat, but do not hit enter. I will let you know when to hit enter. And again, you're writing something that resonated with you from our student panel. And I will, please do not hit enter. I will tell you when to hit enter. I just want you to think about it and write it, and then I will tell you when to hit enter. Let me give us about a minute just to process and to write in the chat. I'll give you another 30 seconds. Start wrapping up your thoughts. Do not hit enter yet. So this is what I'd like you to do on a count of 3. I'm going to ask that we all hit enter together, and then we'll get to have the opportunity to see the chat waterfall and read through the comments. On the count of 3, hit enter. 1, 2, 3. And then if we could take 3 minutes to read through the thoughts. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. If we can go to the next slide, please. We really want to have a conversation with you about the world of work that we're preparing our students for. And certainly looking at this slide, this is back in 1914. This is the world of work then, but represented at Ford Motor Company, and this was opening day. Look to the bottom of the slide, you'll see the square footage, 250,000 square feet, and look at the number of employees then, 25,000 employees. And then you fast forward to 2012, this is opening day at Apple Cloud Storage Center, and look at the square footage and then a reduced number of employees. In 2017, just fast forwarding 5 years from then, this is opening day at Amazon Fulfillment Center. Look at the square footage here and the number of employees. And then look here, this is current reality. A couple of years ago, this could have been anywhere in the US, empty cubicles. Next slide. And really the question is, what are we preparing our students for? And a lot of your comments just really resonated with me, especially the comments about our system and we're not doing enough for our students and they deserve a better education. And I'm with you. To the one student, I think it was David that asked a question, you know, about this process and what good would this process do? And David, I'll share with you, this provides clarity and direction for us. And I heard you loud and clear that we need more student input and we need to do this earlier and more frequent as well. But really this provides us clarity. It provides us a plan and really in changing our system. And that's what this conversation is all about. Next slide. And then this quote, we can't predict the future, but it is certainly our job. We can help our students to prepare for it. And again, that's why we are here this evening, creating a strategic plan to make that happen. Next slide. I will share just briefly here as we think about how we're preparing our students, there's certainly things that we still have to keep in mind. Certainly are influencing our students. We still have to think about our foundational skills that we're preparing our students for. We still have to think about college prep courses as well. So there are certain things that we will still continue to think about and have in our system. Next slide. So the question that I want to engage in with you now over the next few minutes is our why. So I talked to you about the vision, and it's really a snapshot in the future. It answers the question like what we will do in the future for our students. But really, we're going to address this question of why. Why do we do what we do? We're going to talk about our beliefs and why that is important. And why does what we do help our students become better, more agile thinking, contributing citizens who's ready for anything, to compete against anybody across the globe. Next slide. So we probably have seen this before. There's a video out in the 90s from Simon Sinek, and he talked a lot about why, how, and the what. And it's not new. I mean, we've talked about the what, how, and the why before, but what he did is he codified this in this diagram. And he talked about the distinction between organizations that talk about like what they do and how they do it. And then they get around to the why. But he said those innovative and inspirational organizations, they start with the inside of the circle and they really talk about the why first. Like, why do we do this? Why do we exist? And he talks about when you talk about the why first, people will buy your why before they buy your what. They will identify more with you when you talk about your beliefs and why you do things. And this is what we're going to do. For me, one of the things that Simon Sinek said that resonated with me is this whole concept of challenging the status quo. And that's why I believe that we exist here in WCCUSD. And I've heard so many people say it tonight that our system is not working for our kids. So we have to think differently. I believe that. That is my belief, that we have to think differently. Ms. Hatcher said we have to have those uncomfortable conversations. I believe that as well. I believe we have to challenge the status quo. I think that goes from the top to the bottom and the bottom to the top. So let's engage in this conversation about why we're going to do this tabletop activity. If we can go to the next slide. Before we do this, I think it would be great for us to hear from someone that really talks about the why and what I've been talking about. So let's listen to this video first. I don't think we can hear it.
People know that I do comedy, but that's what I do. My phrase, how do I know? They always want to put the what behind it. How do I know what I'm supposed to do? The question that you really should ask is, how do I know why I'm here? Because when you know your why, your what becomes more clear and more impactful. If you know, like for instance, people know that I do comedy, but that's what I do. My why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. So I can do comedy, I can write books, I can be in a movie, because all of it is motivated by my why. In fact, I have a new web series out called Michael Jr. Break Time. We probably just did the 6th episode. It's on YouTube. So every single Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode on YouTube of Michael Jr. Break Time. What it is it's me. I travel around the country and I do stand-up comedy, in case you didn't know. And in the middle of my comedy set sometime, I'll stop and just talk to my audience. And we've been filming this, and it's, you know, it's pretty cool. So we're in Winston-Salem. I'm gonna show you a clip from Winston-Salem. And I'm just talking to this guy in the audience, and he tells me that he's a a musical instructor at a school. So I was like, all right, you're a musical instructor, you know, can you sing? Let me hear you sing a song. So this is what happened at the last episode of Michael Zinger's Breakdown. Check it. So you're a musical director?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. That bro could sing, you know what I'm saying? Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I see.
That's what we really want to do. Oh, sorry.
Here's what I want you to catch. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew.
So that's what we really want to dwell on right now over the next few minutes. We're going to go into a thought exchange process, which really allows us to share our thoughts. I will just let you know that this process allows us not only to share our thoughts, but to also see other thoughts. And the way this works is we're going to go in here, we're going to type in on a device. If you have your cell phone or another electronic device, you can just type in tejoin.com. You can enter in that 9-digit code, or you can just scan that QR scan code, and it'll take you there, and you'll be prompted by some questions. But the big question we want to hear your thoughts around is, what's your contribution, cause, or higher calling for education in WCCUSD? So this is going to get to our why.
I've also put the link in the chat, Dr. Hurst.
Yep.
So folks, you can just go ahead and click on that. You'll be able to get in.
Thank you, Lori. So we're going to give you 4 minutes to engage in a thought exchange process to answer this question about what's your cause, contribution, or higher calling for education in WCCUSD. We have about 2 minutes for you to share your thoughts. We have 1 minute to finish writing our thoughts. And Lori, I'm not sure if you or someone else could bring up the thoughts so we could see them.
Sam, are you able to do that? Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. So here's the thoughts. You'll be able to see these. I will share with you that the thought exchange process will be open for a considerable amount of time. So you could, even after this session, revisit this, add more thoughts, and then go in and see others' thoughts as well. And you can see how this is orchestrated. The more similar the thoughts, those go up to the top, and you can see the star rating. The higher the star rating, I think it goes up to 5, the more people who have said the same or similar thought. So let's just take a moment just to scroll through this, Sam, and we can just kind of see it. Or you could view this on your own. And as I shared, this is something that you could revisit. You can come back to it at any time. And you can look at the thoughts. You can see which thoughts are similar, have gone to the top, and you can always go back and add another thought. And if we could flip back to the slides. So I'd first like to thank all of you for coming this evening. We really appreciate you hanging in there with us. We know we went a little over time. Before you leave, we wanted to share this closing quote with you. 21st century teaching and learning must be reflective in what's happening technologically, socially, economically, and globally. When education lags behind other advancements, students leave our system unprepared for the world that lies ahead. That's what the whole conversation has been about this evening. Really, how can we work together to not only just come up with a vision and mission, but also a plan on how we're going to get there, how we're going to really change the system and think differently. Last slide, please. Before you leave and we close out this evening, thank you all for coming out this evening. Those who have been working behind the scenes, thank you so much. We do have an evaluation. We treat the evaluation very seriously, gives us feedback and preparation for the next phase. And just remember, we do have the guiding coalition that's going to come back with the synthesized information for our next session. So if you can either scan the QR code or enter in the bit.ly/WCC Vision Eval, answer the few questions, and then hit submit to provide us with some of your valuable feedback. And we'll give you some time to do that.
I also put the link in the chat.
Thank you so much, Lori. Once again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you, staff. Thank you, facilitators. We appreciate you. Have a great evening. Take care, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hi, this was great.
Nice to see you again, Miss Cheryl.
Hi, Jamila. I was going to say hi to you too.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, it's nice to watch this happen.
Do you want the interpreters to stay on, or are we done?
Oh, you're great. I'm leaving too. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye, interpreters.
So appreciated.
And good luck to your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori, are you going to stop the recording?
Yes, I'm going to stop it.
Okay. I think